So many podcasters are ready and waiting to increase their reach by using video in so many different ways throughout their podcast marketing stack. Whether that is used in order to create brand new extra content for your podcast, whether you just record your podcast live whilst you're recording the video as well, or maybe you record video trailers for things like Instagram, Facebook, and so on and so forth. Regardless of that, you need some kind of video setup. And that is what I'm going to talk about today here on the Podcast Accelerator. Why and what I have in terms of video kit. All right, we're going to dig into that. I'm, of course, your host, Mark Asquith, CEO and co-founder of Rebel Base Media, where we make podcasting tools such as the managed WordPress platform podcast websites, where we take care of all your WordPress needs. We also run Podcast Success Academy, teaching you the digital skills that no one taught you that you would need in order to be a successful podcaster. And of course, we build Captivate.fm, the world's only growth-oriented podcast host, where you can pick up 7 days completely free over at Captivate.fm. Now, say what? Video for podcasting? What? Well, look, more and more podcasters are looking to extend their reach. So I wanted to spend a little time today looking at my own podcast video setup. Now, what I'm not going to do on this episode is discuss tactics or strategies for using video. I'm not going to talk to you about content. I'm not going to talk to you about where to put this in your marketing stack. I'm not going to talk to you about any of that stuff. Today, we are just going to talk about the actual tech side of things. What gear do you or don't you need? All right. The first thing that you've got to understand is with video, you actually don't really need that much to get started. You need to be fairly lean in terms of your spend. You don't want to be spending a fortune on this. All right. Now, what I would say is that by the same token, there's no point spending twice. So regardless of whether you want to create video trailers, whether you want to create a YouTube channel for your podcast, whether you want to go live like I'm doing now on Periscope recording this, whether you want to do Q&A sessions in a Facebook group, whether you want to do Facebook ads, whether you want to do Instagram content, it doesn't really matter. The thing is, you just need one good piece of kit and to decide on what that piece of kit is. So the kit that I use, which maybe a little overkill. I'll talk you through kind of the top level stuff that I've got and then kind of work you down to the kind of the webcam sort of level that I've got, because it's all great kit. There's no bad piece of kit. I've really got 3 video setups, all right? Not counting a phone. You know, a phone is the easiest way to do it. Just grab your phone and jump online. You know, that we're not going to talk about that. Everyone knows that exists, all right? That's easy. But let's go top in terms of the most expensive, and then let's go down to the cheapest. So in terms of software, I use Ecamm Live and I use Restream in order to simultaneously stream out to various places. I also at times use things like StreamYard, which allow me to do webinars as well. So that's kind of just a little bit off center, that one. But I'm using Ecamm Live, which is fantastic, and I'm using Restream, which allows me to single point of access just to kind of push out to YouTube and Facebook Live and a few other different places. So they're the bits of software, Ecamm Live and Restream.io. Now, so what I would say here is that the top level of camera that I'm using right now, I'm actually using a Canon EOS 80D, which is my photography camera. I've got a couple of cameras that I use for my hobby photography. I use an 80D for a number of reasons. Number one, you can get an adapter that plugs into the battery pack that permanently powers it. That's what mine is working on right now. And you can also change the lenses. It's a normal DSLR, although it's a crop sensor DSLR. So anyone that's a bit geekier like me will know what that means. Crop sensor DSLR. And the other interesting point with this is that with a micro USB cable, you can go straight into your computer and work directly with Ecamm. You don't need any other bits of software. You can use software like CamTwist and CamLive so that you can use your Canon as a webcam as well. I do that in certain instances. But ultimately, Ecamm Live and a Canon EOS camera, whether it's an 80D, a 90D, a 70D, a 750D, an 800D, doesn't matter. Some kind of Canon EOS camera will just plug directly in from the camera into your computer. That's very, very nice and simple. And then I've got 2 lenses that I use for this. I've got the one that I'm using right now for anyone that's watching live on Periscope. I am using a 24mm 2.7 aperture lens, which gives you a really nice blurred effect in the background and also captures a heck of a lot of light because the aperture is nice and wide. I've also got a 50mm lens, which is stunning, but requires, it's got a slightly higher aperture, so a wider aperture, which gives you even better blur on the background, but that needs to be further away, of of course, probably double the distance away, so you don't quite get as much control with it. But that's the top level setup. If you've got a bit of money that you want to invest, and you're into it and you're a bit geeky, a Canon EOS camera will plug directly into your computer, grab the 50mm prime lens or the 24mm prime lens, any of those, and you're going to get a great setup. I've also got, running alongside all of this camera stuff, I've got a newer, NEEWER, newer LED lighting pack, which I can have on a tripod for front lighting, side lighting. I can use it as a bit of a kick light if I want to as well on that tripod. And I'm very fortunate enough to be sat next to a window from one side of me, so I get a fairly decent contrast anyway. So that's the kind of the top level setup that I use for webinars that gives me the really nice blurred background. However, if you don't have that few £100 to spend on that, if you don't have the bucks to spend on that, what I would then recommend is a Logitech C920. And the Logitech C920 is great for a number of reasons. Number one, it's got a decent built-in microphone. Now, it's not going to be as good as a microphone for podcasting because it's just built in, okay? It's going to pick up a lot of noise, but it's good enough, all right? But the cool thing with that is that's actually, it's a 1080p camera. There is a new one, a newer version of the C920, which is 4K, but most streaming platforms actually downrate it to 720 anyway. So for the spend, you can get these for $30. $30 you can get these cameras. Logitech C920. We've got like 10 of them at work at Rebel Base Media. We've got them all over the place for group sessions and for Zooms that we do. Every one of the team has pretty much got one, or we've got a spare one that they use. They're just fantastic. Logitech C920. They are wonderful, all right? Now, the cool thing with that is you can pop it on a tripod. It's a USB or a USB-C, nice and simple. Just get cracking with that. You can plug that straight in. And, of course, again, it works with Restream, and it's working with Ecamm. Now, what about the audio? Well, the audio, what I would recommend is something very, very straightforward. Personally, I've got a Rodecaster and I've got a Zoom LiveTrack L8. Both of those are amazing soundpad-driven mixing desks that will also act as an audio interface to your computer. So anyone listening to this right now on Periscope as I'm recording this live will be getting my podcast audio. It will have all the music. If I hit the music, it will have that in there. And it's got the broadcast quality microphone with my Rodecaster Pro or my Heil PR40, whichever I choose to use at any given time, running into the Rodecaster. But if you don't have that, use your podcasting mic like your ATR 2100 or your Samsung Q2U. Get that plugged into your computer. Ecamm, the software, will sync it all up. It will understand that that's a microphone, and it will make it very, very straightforward for you to use that, okay? The very, very worst case, I wouldn't use the inbuilt audio from the microphones on the MacBooks or the desktops or whatever computer you've got. It's just not quite good enough, but as a worst case to get started, it's fine. If you don't have a mic, get some earphones in. The worst case, don't let not having the gear stop you. As a worst case, get your AirPods in or get some Apple earbuds or some other headphones that have got microphones on there. Get started with that, all right? That's going to really, really work. If you've got $50 to spend on a microphone dedicated for this, I would recommend getting a Rode, R-O-D-E, like the Rodecaster Pro, R-O-D-E. Get a Smart Lav Plus, that will go on your lapel, and it's going to go directly into your phone, and it will even work with a TRRS connector. It is going to work with your Canon as well, so you can use it with your Canon that I discussed earlier. But, you know, that's a big brain dump of information, but go back and listen to this. To recap it, the camera that I use is a Canon EOS 80D, which runs directly via HDMI into micro USB to HDMI into my computer. You can also get it to run micro USB to USB, and that is with the 24mm 2.8 lens or the 50mm 1.7 lens. I've got a newer NEEWER LED lighting pack, which I can use in various places, and as my backup or as my kind of webcam, which you can use as your main camera because they're stunning, Logitech C920, all right? Now, like I said, I'm not going to go into exactly what you would use video content for. That is an entirely different episode. In fact, I've done one already on how you can use Instagram video a little bit differently for your podcast. This is just the gear. It's just the tech, all right? So if you need a hand, hit me up at Mr. Asquith on Twitter. If you are a Rebel Base Media podcast and maybe you use podcast websites, Podcast Success Academy or Captivate.fm, we have a live podcasting deep dive Q&A session with me and the team every first and third Wednesday of the month. The first one is today as you are listening to this on the Wednesday Wednesday. If you're watching on Periscope Live, it's tomorrow, but it's coming out on the 1st of April. We are live at 5 p.m. UK time, which is 9 a.m. Pacific and 12 p.m. Eastern time. So if you've got any questions, you have to be a Rebel-based media podcaster to get into that group, but we'll be live on the Q&A with this very, very setup. And we can talk about video podcasting. We can talk about any kind of tech information that you want. So thank you for joining me. Thank you to everyone that's joined me on Periscope Live. I've Periscoped this one. Hit me up at Mr. Asquith if you want to join those Periscopes and get early access to the Podcast Accelerator. If you're listening on the normal podcast, stay safe, stay cool, look after each other, look after yourself. Remember, everyone needs each other at this time. If there's anything I can do, my email address, mark@rebelbasemedia.io. So thank you for joining me. Stay safe, and until the next time, never forget, the more you expect from yourself, the more you will excel.